Hi, I'm Paul Maluknak, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you about something called Masterlife, which will be offered at our church starting in January. A number of years ago, I kind of came to a crossroad in my life. I had no doubt I was a believer, but when I read certain scriptures, which I usually just passed by, now they start penetrating my heart and telling me, are you a Christian? Are you a disciple? Luke 9:23, for example, it says that Jesus said to them all, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. And then it continues on, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, you can't be my disciple. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Well, I believed I loved God. I loved him in the sense where I would go to worship and I would think about him and all of his attributes, those kind of things. But I wasn't real sure even about that. Do I love him as I should? And John 14, Jesus said, whoever has my commandments and keeps them, he it is who loves me. Now, I didn't want to end up, after I die, seeing the Lord and him saying to me, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. And on that day will say to me, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name or do other things in your name, go to church, go to Bible study, all of that? Didn't we do that? And he will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me. Now, I didn't want that to happen. And so I really had to take a deep look into myself. You know, he gives a scripture in Matthew 7 where Jesus tells all of the disciples, all the people around him, everyone who hears the word of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And just the opposite. If you hear my words and you don't do it, you're like the man who built his house on the sand. We know what happened to him. Well, most people think the rock is Jesus. And I think if you look at it a little more closely, you realize that the rock is obedience to Jesus, who hears my word and does them. Hearing is not the whole story of Christianity. Going to church to hear. Obedience is vital. Obedience is not just, I'm not going to cheat or lie or do those kind of things. It's much more than that. Obedience is being true to his disciplines that he's given us. Let's say you want to be a concert pianist or a fine carpenter, pipe fitter, or lawyer or baseball player. You must first be taught the correct disciplines so that you can train, so that you can learn. Christianity and being a disciple of Christ is about being an apprentice of sorts, the apprentice of Christ. Follow him. You watch what he says to do. You get corrected. And you do it again. Christ taught his disciples these disciplines. Masterlife can be described, I guess, as a developmental, small group discipleship process. Christ taught his disciples disciplines. Thus we get the word disciple. Masterlife is a developmental, small group discipleship process that will help you develop a lifelong obedient relationship with Christ. Your study will, and your experience will get you a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ as he leads you through the 6 biblical disciplines of being a disciple. I've seen a lot of young Christians came to the Lord, and at some point they said, is that all there is? They get bored, and they left. Or some of them got so involved with the one thing, evangelism. It's critical, but they do evangelism and do it, and they're doing it out of their own power, their own human effort. And that's not the way we're supposed to be evangelists. Being a disciple includes evangelism, but we need to have this relationship with Christ that will be described in this as we study and as we experience it. What's in it for you? Well, the goal is your discipleship, for you to become more like Christ. To do that, you must follow Jesus, learn to do the things he instructed his followers to do, and become his true disciple. As I went through that, it helped me to understand my questions that I had. Was I really a disciple, or was just a Christian without being a disciple? Well, there's no such thing. And I was able to figure that out as I went through this. Christian discipleship, once again, is a developmental, personal, lifelong, obedient relationship with Jesus Christ. He will transform your character into Christ-likeness, change your values into kingdom values, and involves you in his mission at home, the church, and in the world. We're going to be starting small groups in January. We'll be recruiting people to join us for a 7-week time period each. We'll meet once a week. We'll have daily activities, which means daily homework that you need to do, and it would be about 30 minutes for you to do that. We challenge you to have a quiet time, and we check each other on it. How did it go? We have weekly assignments with My Walk with the Master and assignments in real life experience, and it will change your life. Kay, Divin, and I will be facilitators of that for the first groups. We'll have 10 people each. We'll meet probably in a room at the church, maybe at home, co-ed groups, couples, singles, married, all of them. We're not separating it out. As we progress, some of the students may agree to become facilitators of Masterlife for the next 7 weeks and for a new group. Debbie and I participated in this many years ago. I could say that there's nothing that we've ever done that has changed us as much as Masterlife. A whole new understanding of what discipleship means. Let me finish with this story. There was a man who was his job and his hobby to buy and sell pearls. He was a merchant of pearls. He went into one shop one day and he noticed the most beautiful pearl he'd ever seen. He didn't know if his eyes were deceiving him, but he asked if he could see it, so they took it out of the counter. And it was truly the most magnificent pearl he's ever had, and it made within him the desire that says nothing else is as important as this. I have to get it. So he asked how much it was, and the proprietor said, more than you can afford. He was shaken by that. The proprietor put the pearl back in the case. The proprietor told him, why don't you go home and sleep on it? Think about it if you really, really want it. So he did, but he couldn't sleep that night. He had to have this. So he comes back the next day. He looks at it and he says, how much is it? The man says, well, it'll cost you everything. Wasn't sure what that meant. He said, here, I have this in my pockets. No, he said, what about your savings account? Okay, I've got a checking and savings. He says, I'll take that. He said, do you have a retirement account? Yeah, I do. I'll take that. How did you get here? He said, well, I drove. Okay, you've got a car. Yes, I'll take the car. Where do you park your car? Well, at my home in the garage. You have a home. I'll take that home. Who else lives with you in that home? Well, my wife and my 2 children live with me. I'll take them also. He said, now you can have this pearl, But remember, all these things that you once owned or thought you owned, they now belong to me. One day I may call on you for any of these things, but you may have a loose grip on them because you don't own them. I do. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls, who on finding one pearl of great value went and sold all that he had and bought it. Please contact Kay Diven or myself if you'd like to sign up for one of our groups starting in January. Thank you very much, and God bless.